So here we're gonna fix the ceiling. It's peeling, tape's peeling. So we gotta get tarps down on the floor, of course. Get the ladder out. We're gonna scrape all that drywall up there and then put some screws in the sheetrock to tighten it up. We're gonna tape it, coat it, and then texture. So we're all set up here. With me, it's pretty easy. My work truck's here, straight shot there. Looks like they have a water hose there, so that's things I do when I first get to the job. Greet the customer, do a walkthrough with the customer, then get set up. Put down plastic, tarps, whatever need be. Locate my hose. I find the quickest point of entry from point A to point B. And I get to work, start pulling everything out. Tools, tarps, ladders, masking. But yeah, we're gonna get to work. We're gonna pull down the ladder here. We're gonna get it over there. And then we're gonna start scraping that loose drywall in the patio. Patios always peel like that because of the gets weathered. Hot, cold, hot, cold. They have sheetrock outside out here. It's just a cheap option when they build these homes, especially these newer homes out here, these track houses. So they like to use these sheetrock on these patios. But we're going to go ahead and get this scraped in. Basically, it's just going to be a watch and learn video. I have hundreds of other videos doing the same process. So go ahead and watch it. Get your materials. Of course, you're going to need fresh water. Here I'm using hot mud. This is my 5-minute quick set mud. I got all-purpose joint compound, which is in this bucket. I got a half a bucket, so that's my next bucket for fresh mud when I run out. This is my 5 minutes powder form. This is more of a pro-grade material here. Mix it up with fresh, clean water, and then it sets up quickly. Pans and knives, all the tools, just get everything ready. It's easier to have everything ready to go before you start mudding. You don't want to start pulling stuff out. Sometimes I like to get the first coat on, and then while the mud's setting up, I pull everything out that I need for my next step. But yeah, let's get to work. Let's pull down our ladder, get it set up over here, get the screw gun, and re-tighten up the... All right. All right, plenty of screws. That way you know it's not loose. Sheetrock, tighten up. It should be chipped out really good. I don't know what they did here. Someone tried to repair this before. I'm trying to get this crown mud off of here. Just makes it easier to coat. This is an optional product. I always show this. Not many guys use it. It's okay, it's an optional. I'm just like to spray this on the paper because it is kind of dusty, because it is outside. Some guys like to take a wet rag, you can get the dust off, but I'm going to use some of this spray glue. Optional, it's not needed. Fiberglass mesh. Alright, we're ready to coat. I also like to keep a piece of the chip outs, cutouts. Always keep these so you can get them for the paint match. Sometimes you forget that you need to repaint all this, so it's easier to grab a piece of the drywall, take that to get your paint match. Any paint store should be able to match that up. So I always give this to my clients, just say, hey, if you don't have the paint, just take this to match it up. So that's why we put tarps or plastic down. It is messy, scraping all that loose stuff. But yeah, now we're going to do a first coat, so I'm going to have to get a fresh bucket of water. Always use fresh water with drywall repair work. If your water is dirty, dump it out, get fresh water. With this, we're going to use a quick set mud. Quick set muds set up fast, so you need to know what you're doing if you use quick set muds. If you're not comfortable with quick set muds, just use a all-purpose joint compound. That's why I like to find a hose area, washout area. If not, you're going to have to wash your tools out of a bucket and sponge. So get some fresh water. We're going to go ahead and mix up a pan of 5 minute. That way it gets to setting up on here. We're going to do one coat, slick it out, second coat, slick it out, and then follow through with a skip trowel texture. Alright, got my bucket, got a mix up station. This is why I like to work on my tailgate, so I don't have to bend over mixing all the time, so it's easier to work off a bench. If you have one, for me it's my tailgate. Hot mud, I just need about a half a pound pan. Don't need much since I'm just doing a first coat. With this powder form, I don't fill up my whole pan. This is an easy technique. I get so many people tell me this is the way to do it, this is the way to do it. No, this is the way to do it, guys. Anyone that says they use a mixer or I use a little paddle mixer, that's fine. I could pull a paddle mixer out of here. I can pull my batteries out of here. I can wash up all those tools, put them away. I don't got time for all that nonsense. By the time I pull my tools out, I already got this mixed up. Just like that. You just add a little bit of water if it's still dry, and you just mix it up with your 6-inch knife. If you're doing a bigger job, then you mix it in a bucket. If I need like a few pans of mud, then I'm going to mix it like some 20-minute or 40-minute in a bucket. Then I'll pull out my electric mixer and paddle and stuff like that. But we're going to get this all mixed up, and we're going to go ahead and coat this. Striking the tape. Always striking the tape. Now you can coat over it. About it. Just let it set up. The It's easier if you do have a hose washout area to wash your tools. Like I said, if not, you're going to have to wash them out inside of a bucket. So that's why I like to have a washout area and hose whenever possible, whenever I do any type of projects, construction. Drywall, painting, stucco, tile, you always need a nice washout area, hose. Keep stuff clean, keep your tools clean. The cleaner you can keep the project, the easier it's going to go. You'd be surprised just doing a simple repair like I'm doing now, how much of a mess it makes. That's why you always want to keep stuff clean as you go. Clean your hands, clean the bottom of your shoes so you don't track mud. You'd be surprised if you step on some mud how much you track it all over the place. But it's easier to wash up your tools while the mud's still wet in your pans. You don't want it caking on your pans. See how it's all caked up on my pan here? Sometimes you have to soak these pans. But yeah, there's mud caked in because the last job I was at didn't have a hose. So that's why I always like to hose out my tools whenever possible. But yeah, we're going to let that mud set up. I'm going to go ahead and just mix up my joint compound. I have some left over in the bucket. I always keep lids on it, a little bit of water on it. I dumped out the water, so I just use a hand stomper, mix it up really good. No clumps and lumps. If you start getting clumpy mud and stuff like that, you're either going to have to strain it or use new mud. Consistency. I add water to this all-purpose joint compound. This is kind of on the thin side because it's the bottom of the bucket, almost done with it, but it's thick enough for this. Consistency would be like a heavy pancake batter. Go with a heavy pancake batter first. If it's still thick, then you just add a little bit of fresh water and mix a little more just to thin it down little by little until you get it to the consistency you can work with it. This is a skip trowel, so we need a heavy pancake batter. But my all-purpose joint compound's ready for my textures, so I'm just put the lid on it. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish up in here. The next step I need, we're going to do slick out. Slicking out the 5-minute hot mud. So I need a clean sponge, 6-inch knife, straight, clean 6-inch knife. And we're going to go ahead and slick out that hot mud. Slicking out just means slicking it out, kind of like a wet sanding technique, but I'm using a 6-inch knife and a wet sponge to slick it out. Basically manipulate the mud and take off any excess mud. Still wet. Hit the edge. Hit your edge. It's still kind of wet, so I'm just going to go over it lightly. See that I'm just taking off the extra. I could probably let it set up a little longer, another minute or so, but this is good enough on the patio. I'm just slicking it out, going the opposite direction. I can go the same direction too. You're just basically trying to take out lap marks, humps, bumps. I put it on pretty heavy, so I'm just taking off the extra material. See, extra material. Now we're going to do a second coat. So I'm going to do the same thing like the first coat. I'm just going to coat everything, let that set up, and we'll slick it out again. And then it'll be ready for texture. Let that second coat set up. 5 minutes. I'm going to give about 5 to 8 minutes to fully set up, and then we're going to slick it out, then texture it. We'll let that set up a few more minutes, then we're going to follow through with the texture with that joint compound I mixed earlier. Just need less than a half a pan of mud, not even quarter pan. Set up texture. Using my 6. Look at the direction of the texture. It's going this way. Put mud on the camera. Double check everything, take it out further and wider to fade it in. It's all knocked down, no missed spots. This is just a skip trowel texture. Any light areas you can add some skip, nothing to it. Cleaned up, just let that texture dry for a day or so. Turn around and primer and paint. Some people opt into sanding it. It is a patio, so they don't really sand them, but you can lightly even sand it with like 150 grit, 200 grit sandpaper. Primer it. Good healthy primer on these patios will help seal it in, give it a little bit of protection from the elements. Then I always recommend doing like a gloss paint on patios. Out here it's a flat paint right now, but a little bit of gloss paint, give it some extra protection from the elements. Hot, cold, wind. Got to protect the sheetrock. If you have sheetrock on patios outside, you have to protect it with fresh, high quality exterior paint. Gloss paint's preferred. That's what I recommend. Everybody wants to do flat, but I recommend a gloss paint on these patio ceilings. Let that texture dry overnight. Anytime tomorrow thereafter, you can primer and paint.